Alright, let's talk a little bit about rendering and compression. Okay, so we have this, and it's just two letters flying in. Okay, it doesn't really matter. It is very short. This is like 2 seconds long. Okay. If I want to render this out, I can simply go into composition and say make movie. And as you render, you get these. Okay, my last one will be the one that's going to be rendering, and for this one I'm going to choose lossless. I have my settings here. If I want to change any of the settings, I could go to the best, draft, wireframe. I can say OpenUseGL render. Lossless means there's no compression whatsoever. So I could use this video in another program like Adobe Premiere if I wanted to, and there will be no drop of quality. Let's export this out to the desktop. And I'll hit render. Okay, out to the desktop right now, I have a new composition 5 rendered out, and you can see it's 486 megs, or 474 megs chopped off. The height in frame is 1920 by 1080. So this is good for Adobe Premiere if I wanted to. But if I was to put this online, it would take all day to export or upload to YouTube. Or, if I was to email this to a friend, they would hate me forever because it's 474 megs. Now, let's look at a different thing. It's called compression. Let's go back to Comp 1 and let's go back to Make Movie. Instead of lossless, let's choose a compression. These are also known as codecs. So we have to think about what codec works with whatever we're working with as far as a workflow. In other words, if I chose FLV, I would never be able to play that on an iPhone or iPod or any of those other things because they don't have the Adobe encoder in them. If I used H.264, it would work really well on an iPod or iPhone. It'll also go good on the internet. So MP3, for example, it doesn't have video. JPEG sequence, a bunch of files. These are all different. A very universal one I use all the time is not AVI, but H.264. Okay. And under format options, I can choose what type of compression. I like using high. This will be a nicer quality. And if you really want to get higher quality, we can go to maximum bit rate and target bit rate and just up these. By default, though, it looks pretty good the way it is. Okay, let's hit OK. And let's render out that composition on the desktop and compare notes. Render. Let's look at it. Okay, the old one was 474 megs. The new one is 65 kilobytes. When played, it looks just as good. Now, the difference? If I went to put this in another application like Adobe Premiere, it would look bad because it would be already compressed. So just keep that in mind. Compression means it's really hard to edit after the fact or use in other applications. If you're going to compress it, it should be for a good reason. Let's say uploading or putting it on some device. So that's rendering out your composition. Enjoy.